Thanks for joining us today. So I will jump in and introduce myself. I'm Caroline Orr, and I am a customer success manager at Architecture. Architecture helps credit unions and all kinds of organizations really with making use of their data and helping their data have the greatest impact within their organization. Um, I actually came to architecture by way of having worked at Tableau/Salesforce. I was with the organization for about 6.5 years in total. So I was with Tableau before it became a part of Salesforce and after. And I think prior to joining Tableau, I was only vaguely familiar with analytics in general, and especially with visualizing analytics too. So it was learning a lot and learning a lot quickly when I joined Tableau. So something that I really leaned on heavily was the Tableau community. It was the ability to join user groups, to join, get on the community forums and see what people were talking about, people answering each other's questions. And I think that's something that kept me active in the community for a long time and also led me to coming to architecture to find an organization that had a kind of a similar mission of connecting people to really create a big impact with their data and using Tableau to do so. So I will be your host today, which means that you can reach out to me if you have questions about what we're talking about today. If you have questions about what we should talk about in the future, those are all things you can direct to me. I'll do my best to kind of moderate the chat. I'm not always the best at reading while I'm speaking, but when I kick it over to Eric, I'll make sure to field questions there. To really start things off, I want to make sure that we talk about what you can expect from this meeting today, talking about what is a Tableau user group in case this is your first time with us or in case you've forgotten what a user group is. We will have Eric Balash come and give us some really cool tips and tricks about data visualization. And I'll kind of briefly introduce him and let him give you a lengthier introduction of who he is and all the knowledge that he has. And then we will leave time for Q&A and an open forum so that we can make sure that everyone has a chance to ask any questions, whether that's geared towards Eric or myself or just questions in general. So I think a really important thing you'll see, we've even gone so far as to underline it, to say this is not a webinar. This is really meant to be a community meeting. So while I'm here as your host today, that really just means I'm here to facilitate good conversation. I want to help you all meet each other. I want to help you all ask the questions that are most pressing, get answers to them. And a Tableau user group is meant to be a really collaborative experience. It's meant to promote networking. It's meant to promote skill development and enhancement, and to help with resource sharing and problem solving. So that's why this specific user group is geared towards credit unions, because we know that credit unions obviously have a lot of specific challenges when it comes to whether that's data sources or visualizing data, or just overall thinking about how you're reaching business goals, that there can be a lot of commonality in those. And what we've also noticed is, of course, that credit unions is a really collaborative industry in itself. So we want to help foster that here. And I think you can also find Tableau user groups that are local to your community. You can find them that are specific to a topic. So while this one focuses on credit unions, you can find them across the board. So I encourage you to just take a look and see what else is out there as well. And of course, invite anyone you know that might be interested in learning more about credit unions to this group. And again, to know this is a really collaborative group, which means if there are topics that you really want to discuss, if there's something you'd like to present on that you have created or accomplished related to credit unions in Tableau, we definitely want to hear about it. So make sure you reach out to us in the email that's in your invite, or put it in the chat. And so for today's user group, we are going to have Eric Balash, who is part of Navy Federal Credit Union. Eric is, I believe, a 6-time Tableau visionary. And what that means is that he has mad skills. It means that he is really nationally ranked in terms of not just being someone who knows how to use Tableau, but knows how to use it well, how to incorporate data into storytelling. And he's also someone that Tableau has recognized as being a leader in the community. So he's like he is today, he is happy to teach and share. He has presented at many a Tableau conference. So if you've been to a Tableau conference, you may have seen him there. But with that, I will kick it over to you, Eric, so you can tell us more about yourself and what you're going to talk about today.
Awesome. All right. And only two-time Tableau visionary, but
A
hopefully someday
six-time
six.
ambassador,
Yeah,
perhaps?
yeah. It's just a different title that Tableau has, kind of for the same stuff, but
All for the same, that to say you have great and tremendous accolades in the Tableau community.
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today. And like Caroline said, this is I love the user groups. I love getting to do these presentations. I did lead the Tableau user group in DC for a little bit, and it's a great place to make connections. Specifically today, really going to kind of take a step back from, really anything related to credit unions or data or anything like that, but really focus on design. I love this presentation because no matter where we're at in our journey with Tableau, no matter where we're at in our data journey at work, and just in terms of data quality and structure and things like that, one of the first things that we can all start doing is building better looking dashboards. And you don't need to be a Tableau visionary. You don't need to be an ambassador. You could have picked up the tool yesterday for the very first time. And a lot of the small tips and tricks and key concepts that I'm going to cover today are small little things that you can start implementing right away. And it's going to take your dashboards to this entirely new level, where you'll be able to really just drive a lot more actionable insights through your dashboards in a way that is presented in just a very friendly user first type of design. So let's get into that. Just a little bit more background on myself. I've been working with Tableau ever since I was a student, and I immediately just fell in love with it. Everything data. So like Caroline said, I do a lot of work in the Tableau community. I run a data community project. I have a website called the Tableau Student Guide, which is all geared with people that are just starting out with Tableau, getting them acclimated to the tool, teaching them very simple ways just to get started. The community project that I run is on a bi-weekly basis where we share out a data set and we share out a very easy topic that's like add a filter to your dashboard, create a parameter, use a date calculation, build a bar chart. Very simple things that you can just do to continue to get practice using the tool. I do host a podcast. I haven't really had any new episodes come out recently, but where I just chat with individuals in the data analytics space and their interests and hobbies outside of work. Outside of that, live with my wife Olivia in Centerville, Virginia, just outside of DC, and we have a wonderful standard poodle named Loki, who is in the top right corner. And if you thought he was a doodle, we can't be friends because everyone thinks he's a doodle. But I say no, he's a standard poodle. Here's our agenda for today. There is going to be a ton of content packed into this presentation. At times, I'm going to go through things pretty quickly just so we can stay on track with time. But like Caroline said, this is going to be recorded. You'll have these slides that I can even share out afterwards. Or you can just reach out to me and we can talk about a specific topic in a little bit more detail. Everyone asks, well, why 9? Well, actually, this original presentation had 10, but I always cut it down and combine things into different numbers. So there is no set number of, design tips. There's not just 9, there's not 10, sometimes there's 5. You can slice this however you want, but these are the main topics that we're going to cover today in the presentation. Oh, forgot to update this slide. Should say 9, but 10 is combined in here, so don't worry. All right, so here's our scenario. So we got an email that says, we need your help. We built a set of professional service suite dashboards, but we need them to look modern and cool. I think a lot of us often get this request at work. Not only do we want to get rid of all these tables, but we want everything to look cool in our dashboards, right? Give it kind of that Google type of feel. We want them to follow our brand guidelines, be interactive and user friendly, and we need them as soon as possible, which of course that means they wanted it yesterday. So now we're on the hook for getting this done. And they say, can you help us? And we say, absolutely. So let's take a look at the dashboards that they created. At first glance, this dashboard looks pretty good. I like the call out of the KPIs. I like the icons in there. I kind of love the metadata going down the left hand side. But, the more we look at this, there's just a few things that seem kind of off, right? Like, why are the KPIs at the same level as our title? We're using a lot of different colors throughout this dashboard. What's with the huge white gap of space in the bottom right hand corner? I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but just hovering in the bottom right hand corner, there's a big gap there. So let's see how we can take a lot of those design principles and the key concepts that go with each and see how we can make this dashboard better. So we're going to go through each step and just see how this dashboard continues to get better and better throughout our process. So, number one, we're going to talk about order by importance. So within each topic, like order by importance, I have several key concepts, and I'm going to hit on some of these concepts. Some of them might not apply to the dashboard that we're working with, but I'll do my best to kind of cover them all, and they'll change colors as I highlight kind of which one we're talking about. So key concepts for order by importance: order from top to bottom, left to right. Our most important aggregated information should be on top, with that less important information on the bottom. We can consolidate our headers for smoother readability and place supporting items close to related. So let's take a look at these. So order from top to bottom, left to right. Just like we read with any dashboard, the most important things in everything, we're going top to bottom, left to right. So I should have my title, I should have any navigation buttons, all that information should be at the top. And then as we go down left to right, I'm kind of getting less important or more granular with my detail. So here we have a nice structure of our metadata information on the left, our title with our well, not right now, but our logo and our navigation buttons and our download buttons are across the top, kind of in its own panel. And then we have the bulk of the dashboard in the middle. And then from there, we kind of want to order things from most important aggregated on top to less important on the bottom. So, right, we always hear KPIs, bands, the big angry numbers, all that information, what we want to communicate to our stakeholder, that should be at the top. Those are the big numbers that they care about. And then as we go down there, that's where we start to get a little bit more detailed. So we're kind of splitting out those KPIs at the top by different dimensions, adding more granularity to it. And then we want to place supported items close to related. So what I have here is I have these little boxes circled. So my top 5 parameter in the top left there, does that control just showing the top 5 in all of my charts? Or does that show the top 5 just for that conversions per webinar chart? Right. So being strategic with where we're placing things. Our filters, do they control every worksheet on our dashboard, or do they only pertain to one or two of our bar charts? So making sure that where we're placing things kind of communicates to our user, what they're going to affect. So if I take all of those key concepts and I apply them to this dashboard, this is kind of what an updated look and feel can look like. We've now removed that huge white gap from the bottom. We've moved our filters to the top. And now we have our KPI separated out from our title. So now we're kind of at two different levels where we have our title and filters on one line, and then we have our KPIs at the next. All right, so that was everything with order by importance, all of our key concepts. Let's take a look at a different dashboard and just see how that applies. So here I have our employee turnover dashboard. Now, a lot of great metrics in this. I love the kind of two-tone color palette that we're working with, but on the left-hand side, right, things just, it's a little off, right? We have our KPIs on the left-hand side. They don't communicate to my user that they're important being on the right-hand side. They should be on either the left or the top. And then what I like about the version on the right where we've corrected everything is that we've organized our charts in terms of the question that they're answering related to turnover. So we have our when questions, when is turnover happening, going down the left hand side. Our center column is who is it happening to, and then our right hand side is why. Think about maybe you have a dashboard where you need to organize by region rather than just having a whole bunch of charts everywhere, right? Maybe we organize a column or a row by region or department. So thinking about how we can order by importance in that type of aspect. Here's just another example of our credit union annual dashboard. KPIs on the bottom just really doesn't make sense. And then we've organized things into a nice grid-like structure. So now we have a 2x2 grid with our chart on the right. And if you can see my cursor, one of the things that I liked is we've consolidated our headers here. So we have this sparkline chart here, and then we also have our chart here that shows the top 10 states by amount. But what we've done in the version on the right is we combine that into one chart, right? So we're not being repetitive with our labels that just add more, detail to our dashboard. We've actually combined things into a smaller chart to take up less space. And I just really like how we've been able to do that. There's less, visual overload. All right, number two, format font. All right, so here are key concepts of one font type throughout the dashboard. Make sure that that font type works with Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server. Use bold text sparingly for emphasis. Limit those font sizes and use legible font types. And I'll kind of get into that table here as we go through the rest of the dashboard. One font type throughout our dashboard. So when I look at the version that we were handed, I see a mix of Calibri, Times New Roman, Arial, maybe some of the Tableau fonts. And while those fonts kind of may give us a different weight that we're looking for, trying to stick to just one of those fonts and using size or bold or italics to, kind of change the way that that font looks is probably better. So I always try to stick to one font type throughout my dashboards. Uh, in terms of which font to choose, if you have ever seen anything by the Flurlage twins, I believe they put a great blog post together around all the different possible font types that Tableau offers, and then really which ones are web safe. Now, my list could be a little bit outdated, but I believe these are all the ones that are web safe fonts. I once built a dashboard. I know I have Calibri on here, but I once built a dashboard in Calibri on a Windows machine, sent it to somebody who worked on a Mac, and when they opened it on the Mac, the font looked totally different. So I say that I just try to stick to the Tableau fonts. I think Arial is another web safe font. I really just stick to Tableau or Arial. I know some organizations might install their approved or their marketing font that they use to their Tableau server, so you can use it that way if it's a very specific font. But again, when you're building in Tableau, there are a lot of great fonts out there that you might want to switch to, but I would encourage you just to stick to the Tableau fonts and Arial because no matter who you send it to or, across different machines, operating systems, browsers, it's going to stay the same. Use bold text sparingly. So here we have our title bolded along with our KPIs. And, to me, the balance is just off a little bit there. So I'd probably unbold my title or unbold my KPIs, one or the other. We probably don't need to use both. Limit our font sizes. This is what I like to stick to. So in addition to using the same font, I don't want to have a whole variety of different font sizes throughout my dashboard. For my dashboard title, I stick between size 22 and 28. Worksheet titles 11 to 14, chart headers 9 to 10, and additional text 8 to 10. Now that doesn't mean pick, for additional text 8, 9, and 10 throughout the dashboard. Just pick one and kind of stick to it. I think that just creates a lot better balance when working with our fonts and dashboards. The last one I'll touch on, which I don't really have a slide on, is use legible font types. No one wants to see a dashboard in Papyrus or Broadway unless if you're building it for fun. Please don't use that in your work business dashboards. So if we take these key concepts and apply it to our number 2 of format font, this is what an updated version could look like. So now we've removed actually the bold from our KPIs and our title, but it still kind of holds that weight because of the size of the font that we're using. We've standardized the font type throughout the dashboard as well as the size. Here's just another example, our hotel manager dashboard. On the left-hand side, we can just see a mix of font styles in there. It's really not a font type that I like. One of the things I'll point out is the KPIs with the gray background, right? In addition to making sure that, we're using the font sizes and type that I recommend, we also want to make sure that our fonts are accessible. And there are generators that you can find by just a simple Google browse. But you want to make sure that the color of the font that you're using with the background is accessible. And, you can plug in the background color, the font color, and size and weight, and it will spit out to you and say, yep, this is an accessible color with the same background that you chose. So, on the left-hand side, the grays kind of bleed together. Probably want to use black or a much darker gray to kind of make that distinguish from the background. All right, number 3, use color consistently. So if you're not sure where to add color, I do think adding color to your dashboard is one of the trickiest things. Designing grayscale first. Totally remove color from the conversation and just build out your charts in either the standard Tableau colors that they offer or start in grayscale. Then from there, we want to use 1 to 2 dominant colors throughout the dashboard. So whether to show numeric patterns like positive or negative, or to separate things like regions or departments. We want to make sure that we're being consistent with that color across all of our dashboards. Use your organization brand colors. And again, just like our font types need to be accessible, so do our colors. So kind of the first three here. I always like this slide because I like to ask folks, well, what does blue mean? Does blue mean that my conversions per month are getting higher? Does it mean that it's my client's business unit sales or number of records? Or is it that top blue bar in the conversions per webinar, right? We're really not able to distinguish what blue means. So we want to make sure that we're being consistent with our colors throughout our dashboard. Um, you know, the top right corner, green and red, that's definitely colors that we want to stay away from. They are not colorblind friendly colors. So folks that have varying degrees of color blindness cannot distinguish between green and red. So making sure that when we're building dashboards, we're also making sure that they're colorblind accessible as well. And there are other generators that you can put an image in and get those colors. Tableau even has a colorblind color palette as well. So make sure that you are utilizing that. And like I said, design in grayscale first. So if you're not sure where to add color, just remove all the color from this, start in grayscale, and then kind of go from there. So what we've done in this dashboard is we've brought in our fake companies, primary company colors. So we have our primary colors, our secondary colors. And for this one, I didn't really want to use the primary ones. I wanted to use the secondary color throughout the dashboard. So I'm going to allow that dark blue to form the basis of my dashboard. Now, maybe I want to add in that orange or the green or the yellow as, a secondary dominant color for emphasis. But really, I just want to use 1 to 2 dominant colors and then use gray or a lighter version of that color for everything else in the dashboard. So if we only use 1 to 2 dominant colors throughout the dashboard, this is kind of what it could look like. Now, this is a very dark blue and gray dashboard, maybe not, the most kind of like sexy looking dashboard here. But like I said, maybe I would want to bring in one of those secondary colors for emphasis somewhere else to call out a specific point or kind of use to highlight somewhere else. So I could see that where we would take this to kind of the next level and add maybe another dominant color in here just so it's not so gray heavy. Now, what I like about this, there's two examples here, and this is one of my favorite examples to show for color consistency. What we have here on the left-hand side is, again, I don't know what purple means. Purple could be our South region. It could be our sales trend. It could be positive or negative. So what we've done on the right-hand side is we removed color from our different regions, but what we've said is orange indicates poor performance. So anywhere that I see orange, I know that my sales is trending in a negative way, or it's down. But on the other hand, if we didn't want to use color that way, then we could color each region different. So you can see how that varies from, the version that I showed first to the version that I showed second. So really thinking, we can tell the story with color different ways. And again, it's just going to come down to, what our end users' preferences are. Number 4, adjust padding in white space. So we want to use padding in white space to kind of separate our thoughts. We want to group charts together by using the same background color. We could add borders to our charts, but again, we don't want them to be very bold, dark colors. And then use at least 10 pixels of inner padding on charts, and I'll explain what that is. So let's take a look at padding in white space. So when I look at this dashboard, everything is kind of bumped up against each other, right? We have our title right up against our metadata section. The metadata section goes to the end of the dashboard. All of our worksheets are kind of expanded to the very edges of the chart. And that's okay, but there's really no kind of separation of our thoughts or balance throughout the dashboard. Our KPIs are nicely and evenly spaced. But probably what I want to do here is add some padding. So if you go to the layout tab when building a dashboard in Tableau, you have options there for outer padding and inner padding. I, by default, always add about 10 pixels of inner padding to all of my charts just to kind of create the separation from the outside. And then add borders to charts or containers to grab users' attention. I'm going to talk about containers a little bit later, but I would probably want to maybe add like a light border around these charts just to kind of separate our thoughts as well. You'll see we'll update the background color to kind of a light gray, just to add more gray to this dashboard. But our worksheets are going to be white. We're going to add a very light border around everything just to kind of make it pop off the background. But then we're also going to add in inner padding, which is going to really just bring out those the spacing and the distinction from the background color as well. All right, group charts together. Yeah, so we have our metadata section going down the left hand side. So I have different shades of blue in there, but we know that everything is related in that space because it's all grouped within that container together. So if we apply padding and white space to our dashboard, this is what an updated version could look like. So I love how this is transformed into something where now we're not everything is bumped up against each other. You can see here that we have spacing between our metadata section and the actual charts. One thing that I would probably want to update within this dashboard a little bit more is just making the spacing consistent. So right now you can see this is a little bit skinnier and this is a little bit thicker. So probably making the padding and white space between all my charts even, and that's just going to create even more balance throughout our dashboards. Just another example here of adding padding and white space. You can just see how everything is lined up against this section over here. Everything's kind of on top of each other. But what we've done in this next version is we actually brought in some floating background objects that we're floating our worksheets on top of. So it's giving that kind of shadow effect. You can't do this natively in Tableau. You would have to use PowerPoint or Figma or another tool to kind of get these rounded edges and shadows. Actually, I think that is a new version of Tableau that might have rounded corners. Maybe not drop shadows yet, but just something to think about if you want to kind of elevate your view to the next level. All right, number 5, clear the clutter. So key concepts for this topic: label all marks or show axes. We don't need to do both. Decide whether headers are needed. Remove our grid lines and borders that don't add clarity. Use fewer shapes. Some people say don't use shapes in a business dashboard, but I totally disagree with that. And format your tooltips to increase readability and reduce confusion. The last one is a big one for me. So label all marks or show axes, not both. So when I'm looking at these two charts, right, I have my axes labeled for my conversions per month, but I also have every single mark on that line chart labeled. Same with my bar chart. I have the axes showed from number of records, and I also have the bar chart showed. Now, in this scenario for the chart on the bottom, I probably would remove the axes since I'm labeling my bars. And for the conversions for per month, I think you could keep all the labels on there. I think it's a little bit over cluttered, so maybe I just add a label for the latest mark. But then I keep my axes on there. So maybe I just show the 254 for May. But then I keep the axes on there, so I kind of have a general range of, okay, well, if we're down at 254, what's that higher number? And so that the axes will kind of give me that range. Remove grid lines and borders that don't add clarity. By default, when I open a workbook, I go right to the format tab or dashboard tab, and I format my workbook and I remove all grid lines. I do use grid lines in some scenarios, but I just think they kind of add to a little bit, they create a little bit of visual clutter, especially if we're labeling our bars, especially if we have the axes in there. We probably don't need to add grid lines for columns and rows for everything. So definitely think about removing those or just making them really light so they kind of pass in the background, but you're not really seeing them. Use fewer shapes and icons. I'm totally okay with using shapes and icons in our dashboard, but what I don't like about these in the dashboard is there's just so much going on in them. When I'm showing webinars, I don't need to show the 3 people in the audience watching the webinar on YouTube specifically. I can just show, like a screen with a play button, and that's going to be my webinar logo. So kind of reducing the visual clarity with our icons. Also making sure that the icons that we're choosing are going to be the same and consistent throughout. So are they filled or are they outlines of icons? So making sure that the style of them is the same. And format tooltips for increased readability and reduce confusion. This is something that I think is overlooked by tons of people in Tableau. I'm guilty of it myself, but by default, Tableau displays kind of their out of the box tooltip with whatever you drag onto the view. So in this specific scenario, we have a table calculation in here, and it's giving me webinar conversions attendee rank a long table down. That is not a friendly tooltip to my users. So thinking about how we can either format that into a sentence or really just going in and only putting in the fields that we need. You can also turn off the tooltips as well if that's something that you don't need to display. Probably don't need to show tooltips for KPIs or things like that. So if we apply these key concepts, now you can see how we've updated our tooltip to read like a sentence. We've formatted it using the fields and the values to really just read as a sentence to our users, and I love that option. You can see how we've reduced a lot of the clutter by removing the grid lines. We removed the axes, and then we're just labeling things the end of our bars that matter. Again, I would probably add a label to that area chart, maybe just the end number or kind of our high and low points, so I know the range. Just another example here of clearing the clutter. So same dashboard, just formatted totally different with a lot of the key concepts that we've already hit on, right? But we're looking at two different stocks here and just their performance. And look at I love the line charts in the middle that just have a ton of numbers or the scatter plot. Right, using tooltips, using our, just like hover or different actions, we can just click on something and see the label or hover over it for the label, but we still have the axes there to kind of give us that range. So just thinking about how we can reduce that visual clutter by removing certain data labels. All right, number six, leverage containers. So we want to use containers in our dashboard to easily group content together to manage spacing and formatting. Get creative with show hide containers. I love that option within Tableau. Very similar to dynamic zone visibility, which I'm not going to dive into today. That's a bit more of an advanced feature, but a lot of great content and videos out there on the web to go through that. Only show content continuously if needed, and be mindful of our container hierarchy. So easily group our content together to manage format and spacing. So I have a container, which we have two types of containers within Tableau. We have vertical and horizontal containers. I have brought out a horizontal container to put all of my filters into because one of the great features about that is when I click and drag that container around, it is going to bring all of those filters with it because it's kind of part of a group. I also have the option within that container to space things out evenly, which is something that we want to do just from a balance and again with that white space and padding perspective. Using containers to get that even spacing throughout is a huge win, and I would use that on my KPIs as well. Show use containers for kind of that show hide ability here. So we have this really detailed chart on our dashboard, but um, you know, kind of thinking about this dashboard, we have our great KPIs, and then we have our visual aspects. Maybe we don't need to have this detailed chart always shown on the dashboard. Maybe this is something that we can add a show hide option for. So when my users want to see that row level detail, they can click on that show hide option, and then it's going to overlay my dashboard with that detail table. That's something that I really like adding on a lot of my dashboards. The visuals are great, but there's always those folks that want to see things at kind of that row level detail. So um, using a show hide option for that is a huge win. So what we've done here now is I have the show hide options to hide my filters and to show that detail table. So when I click on them, now it's going to show me the detail overlaid with my dashboard. Right. So we're reducing the amount of visuals on our dashboard by hiding and only showing what's necessary. And just be mindful of container hierarchy. I think, I love this example because, whenever someone sends a dashboard to me and you open it and you look at this item hierarchy under the layout tab within Tableau, you probably see like tiled, and then it's like vertical, 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 horizontal, horizontal. You have like a whole list of containers. That does impact the performance. So making sure that we're only using containers where necessary, and making sure that we kind of have that really well laid out visual hierarchy. You can actually rename those objects. I'd say that is maybe not totally worth your time, but it's something to think about. If especially if you have a lot of content on your dashboard, you can rename a container object. Here, I've renamed it to say navigation button, so I know which one I'm clicking and dragging, and it just doesn't say horizontal container. I love this example of the container hierarchy. I feel like a few of us have cabinets that look like this. All right, so if we take all of those key concepts and apply them to this dashboard, this just looks so much better. Things are evenly spaced out now. We've kind of cleared up some of the spacing here, so now this is even. Still a little bit different here. So, we just wanted things to line up here. I would probably drag out these KPIs and make them a little bit wider, but we're also hiding our filters, hiding that detail table, and we've really reduced a lot of the extra visual clutter on here into something that is just a very clean and polished dashboard. Another example here, I love the show hide option. So on our version on the left, we have a filter show hide to bring out the two filters. If there's only two, maybe you can probably just leave them on the dashboard. But when you start to add 5, 6, 7, 8 filters, maybe consider using a show hide option. Here we have a little calendar view so we can switch between our charts. So show hide containers are great for chart swapping as well. So we're switching from our total aggregated area chart to kind of a day and month view or week and month view here. Apply interactivity effectively. So verify that dashboard's actions are not competing with one another. Sequence interactivity or use actions to create drill down capabilities. Ensure the interactions are clearly explained in instructions on or titles, and be mindful when naming dashboard actions. So kind of have a video here that I'm going to go through, but by default, a lot of people just click that filter action. And what's happening here is when an individual clicks on a state, it filters the dashboard, but when they clear that filter, then it brings everything into my view. So now I have to go in, edit this generated filter. I'm going to give it a clearer name. First of all, we don't just want to say dashboard action 1, dashboard action 2. I should clearly explain to my user what this action is doing. It's going to filter the right side by city. And then when I clear it, I'm saying just keep the value that I cleared. So now when I click on a state and then I clear that value, it just stays. And now we're not getting all of that extra information in there. So, by default, don't just click the filter worksheet. It might not work exactly how you hoped. So make sure that you're going into those dashboard actions and really thinking about how they should be working. I think this is an area where we start to lose a lot of our users in dashboards, especially if everything has a hover or a filter action, and then they click on something and it doesn't do what they think. They're not going to trust the data or that dashboard. So making sure that we're giving our users, one, we're building the actions correctly, but then also giving the information that they need to be successful in that dashboard. So within this title, you'll see here for that top right chart with the map, I say click on a circle or bar to filter the dashboard, clearly telling my user what to do. And then in the bottom right, under the state policy information, I have a label here that says hover to view policy detail. So I'm telling my user how to interact with the visual and how the dashboard and actions work. So similar to not having layered containers within our dashboard, we also don't want to have layered action filters. And if we do, we just need to make sure that they are working together in the right way. Number 8, so just 2 more to go. Consider navigation methods. Decide whether to use buttons, dashboard actions, or both. We want to make sure our tabs are named intuitively to make navigation easier. Consider a Tableau landing page and leverage navigation buttons for sheet swapping. So here we've used within our professional services suite dashboard, we have navigation objects to kind of click between our different dashboards. So typically Tableau just has the tabs when you publish it to server or cloud, and that's fine. You can use the tabs like that. But if we really want to make kind of like a seamless, make our dashboard seem more like a website or have a lot more like user friendliness to it, we can remove those tabs and we can actually use navigation objects. So rather than switching between tabs, you're doing the same thing, but you're just using these navigation objects that allow you to place them at different places on the dashboard, name them differently, change the way that the style or the button works. So this is a great way to just make your dashboards a little bit more user friendly than the out of the box functionality that Tableau has with the tabs. We also want to make sure that we're naming our tabs in our worksheets very clear. So here on my executive summary, I've named all of my sheets starting with number one. So I know that number one pertains to that dashboard, that all my worksheets go on that dashboard. You can use a letter, you can use a number, you can have your own naming convention. I would just avoid naming it like, your sales funnel, because I don't know if my sales funnel is supposed to go on my executive summary or my sales rep dashboard. So just being a little bit more thoughtful when naming your dashboards and your worksheets. Just like it's important to name your filter actions and dashboard actions intuitively as well. Consider using a landing page. This is a presentation I actually did, my gosh, probably like 7 years ago at the Tableau Fringe Festival, which is like a online Tableau conference. But it was all about landing pages. And what I like about this is, you know, use a landing page to kind of welcome your users into a dashboard. Rather than just like throwing them into that, very heavy detail view with tons of filters and numbers, we can add a view in front of that that's kind of like a welcome page where it's very high level. It gives you the name or title of the dashboard, gives you some supportive information about it, some of like the high level information. So these are some other ones that I've designed. And right, they kind of have like a very like website type of feel. But if you think about maybe the dashboard on the right is embedded into a website, I can quickly see, with report one, I can see that there's something that's trending down that I probably need to look at. But with report two, three, and four, things are good. I have other links out there about, about the dashboard, a list of the developers that built the dashboard, or it takes me to my team page. Right. So thinking about how we can maybe leverage something like this, where we're not just directly throwing our users into all the data, but kind of creating a more visually a more visually front end to our dashboard. So the one on the left, we just have a lot of buttons. Maybe I'm responsible for our diabetes care, and I don't really care about all of the other dashboards in that chronic disease report suite. I only care about the diabetes report. So now my developer has given me a button to take me right to that page, and I'm not getting lost in everything else. So very small things that we can just add to our dashboards to make them more user friendly. And then consider navigation methods, or consider using like buttons for navigation. So we have our navigation across the top in the green column to kind of take me through different tabs, but then I am also using dashboard actions, parameter actions, to switch between Fund B and Fund D. Usually there's a video that plays here, but it doesn't look like it is working for me. But basically, right, these are navigation objects here at the top, but then these look like navigation objects, but they're actually parameters. And using more of an advanced feature within Tableau, I'm using parameter actions to switch all the data that's in here. So just thinking about how we can kind of use the combination of navigation methods to look like things are switching, or moving between dashboards. Number 9, save time and templatize. Leverage simple layouts that are easy to follow, increase adoption through consistent design, and brand your dashboards using your organization style guide. So this is something that's huge for me. All of our organizations have an approved marketing branding style guide that gives us our logos, our fonts, our colors. Outside of fonts, because like I said, probably you want to stick to those web safe Tableau fonts. Make sure that you're using your organization's approved colors. It has the hex codes in there, and those values, and use that. Brand your dashboards like they're your own. When I open it, I should know that the dashboard is Navy Federals because it's using my Navy Federal color palette and has our company logo in it, or our team's logo. So think about how you can leverage those types of things in your dashboard. And then, when I talked about those 1 to 2 dominant colors, or using things for emphasis, still using those same brand colors to do that within our dashboard. And I think a lot of the examples that I showed, we had some examples where the design was exactly the same, just a different dashboard. Like that webinars conversion one looks exactly like our professional suites dashboard, just a different color. So once you have a template and format that works, stay consistent with it. If you're always putting your company logo on the top left corner with all your filters going down the left-hand side, keep it that way. We don't want to just switch it up with our user and then throw all the filters on the right hand side. We want to make sure that we're building consistent dashboards. I know every dashboard is going to have a different structure to it, different data, different look, but if we can kind of keep some of those basic things the same, download buttons, navigation, filters, title, and keep those in the very same spot throughout our dashboard, you're just going to create much more consistent things that are going to increase your users' adoption. So putting it all together, if we take all of these 9 design concepts and apply them to our dashboard, this is what we can all do. And like I said, this is not just for folks that have Tableau years of experience, but this can be with folks that just started working with the tool, as soon as yesterday. So thinking about how you can just keep these very simple visual things simple within your dashboard, you'll be able to go from something on the left to something on the right. So all the same data communicates the same meaning, but things are just so much clearer for our users. We have a beautifully designed dashboard with simple colors, even spacing, and I just love the transformation that this went to. So um, for me, I love working with Tableau. Get to work with it every single day. Biggest thing for me is design. We can all build dashboards. We can all, do crazy things within Tableau. But if you can't build a dashboard that is well designed and user friendly, no one's really going to want to use it. So just, think about how you can use design in your dashboard today. Think about different ones that you've created that you can maybe redesign starting tomorrow. I love talking about design. I love talking about Tableau. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Best way to connect with me is on. There's supposed to be a big thank you on there, not just my name. I don't know where that went, but connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably where I'm most active. But yeah, just shout out to Devin and Caroline for having me today. Great to meet all of you, and hope you found this presentation useful.
Thanks so much, Eric. I just put your a link to your LinkedIn in the chat, along with a link to your Tableau student guide. I feel like that presentation really is uh, unique in its nature, that you can actually get immediate value from it, no matter what your level of
Mhm.
expertise is, um,
Yeah.
which is
Absolutely.
really
Yeah, I used to teach students Tableau that were in college, and from the very beginning, we taught them simple things like that. And just from the beginning, while they had no experience with Tableau, as they started building bar charts and KPIs and putting their dashboard together, they would keep all these simple things in mind. And it was just amazing to see how they were brand new to it, but were building these dashboards that were extremely user friendly and still communicated the main data points. So again, it's something that we can all start to do in our work, and it's going to make a huge difference in the long run.
that's awesome. I do want to go ahead and open up the floor for if anyone has questions about anything that Eric discussed, or kind of just topics/questions in general that they want to float. And if you'd rather, I can't, it sent me a message saying it had turned off some of the chat functionality. So let me know if you're having issues that you want to put it in the chat, but you can't.
I know, and I really appreciate you coming in, Eric, to like share such great content when you were showing even the first dashboard. I was like, oh wow, that's actually like I want that. Can we have
Yeah,
that?
it's not
Like,
that bad, right?
can we talk to Bevy, the people that run the Tableau user group, and get some stuff like that in there? Um, and I know like I'm trying so hard to like get people to, come off mute, come and talk, and but then, we had such you were killing it on the presentation, so I didn't want to interrupt you at all. But
Oh no, all
um
good.
if anyone wants to jump in and ask Eric a question or connect and just say hi, please jump in. We have been recording this, so we will be sharing that back with you. The one thing we didn't quite get to was what you guys would like to do on the next one. So I think Caroline, you might have a quick poll that we can do on Mentimeter in case you guys want to share some feedback or just, how you would like to see the user group kind of working. So we'll give you a second to check or to pull this up. You can do this on your phone or on your computer. Um, and I'll try it on mine just to make sure it's working.
Perfect. All right. So for this question, this is kind of specific exactly to today of how do you prefer to engage with the user group? We want to make sure this is a collaborative group and that people have a space they feel comfortable collaborating in. So, do you like having the polls? Do you like engaging in kind of more of an open forum? Or just go ahead and own it and say, I'm a lurker, I'm just here watching. I can certainly say I've joined quite a few groups from Tableau community groups to lurk and just see what's going on. Look like we're close.
That's cool. We have like a, legitimate balance here, which is great. Like, not everyone has to come and join in the conversation, but I think it does seem like people like the Mentimeter, as a tool to be engaged, but maybe, I'm not feeling like, chatting today, but happy to share like some input. So we'll keep incorporating those as we get closer. So maybe let's just go to the next one. And what would you guys like to see for the Credit Union Tableau user group in 2026? We've done, a couple of meetings this year. Obviously, we're mostly virtual. I'm sure Tableau conference is a big one. I don't know if anyone plans to go to that next year, but do you guys want to continue doing quarterly meetings like this, inviting guest speakers? Do you want to just have kind of that open, forum and discussion, and we bring a couple questions to get the conversation rolling? If there's anything that you looking for in 2026 for the user group, let us know. We don't have a date picked just yet for quarter 1, but we will definitely take a look, probably try to get it in before all those major conferences. So I'd say probably sometime in February.
Need to drop for another one, but thanks again for having me. And Caroline and Devin, I shared out the slides with you. So I'm not sure how if you're able to share that out, but if anyone asks for them, you have them now. So happy to share those out with everybody. But thanks again for having me. Of
Perfect. Well,
Thank you so
thanks so
much,
much,
Eric.
Eric. We really appreciate it. And
course.
thanks for all the
All right, have a good
resources.
one.
You too.
Thanks all. Appreciate you. I understand a lot of you have to drop for another one, need a quick break. We'll leave this up for the next minute or two. And if not, have a wonderful afternoon. Yeah, I like that. Having a guest speaker for the first half and then, getting some kind of like open discussion going a little bit. Um, that was such a great presentation and it did, take a good chunk of our time but it was totally worth it.
This is something too, you can also go to the uh, homepage for this user group. And if there were, discussions you wanted to have or questions you wanted to raise um, on the presentation from Eric or from any topic, you can always start them there to get a sense of what other people are thinking or working on.
Well, thanks for hosting for us. Really appreciate it. Um, and we'll circle back with you, get everybody out the recording. Thanks again for coming. Have a nice day.